Ah, yeah, being a badass. Middle fingers up. Woo! Okay. So, what's up, guys? Doing another episode of Full Blast. Excited about this one. So, why I'm making this video? The evolution of this was in the class video on Thursday. They talked about Sylvester Stallone and his lead NF sleep, and they mentioned this scene from the new Rambo movie that's like one of the sickest things I've seen on screen. Like, I watch a lot of movies. I have a pretty good temperament for violence, and this shit was no joke. Holy hell. Anyway, they mentioned this, and of course I Googled the scene because my double masculine SF consume demanded it. And of course, like, I love super violent things in movies that are like creatively violent. And this absolutely qualifies. Like, I would not have thought to do that to another human being as a way to inflict pain on them, but that shit is effective. Oh, goddamn. And so I posted it in the class members group, and we actually got kind of a good discussion going about it, and just like really exploring like not only the differences between, you know, the as an indication of NF sleep and the like, this fucking matters to me, get out of my way, disrespecting sensory reality, but specifically in this case, the fact that Stallone's two savior functions are feminine FI and feminine NI, which means that both of his demon functions are his masculine functions. He's sort of like Neil deGrasse Tyson in that way, right? So Stallone is he's a double masculine ISFP, missing consume. Right? So he has masculine SE, masculine TE play third. And it's sort of like Neil deGrasse Tyson, who is also a double masculine, but he has savior feminine NE, savior feminine TI. And his blast is his double masculine. And so it got me thinking, and I actually watched I've never seen a Rambo movie until last night. I've never seen a Rambo movie. And I was like, well, I got to remedy this shit. Because, you know, look, I've heard really mixed things about it, and obviously the newer ones did not get very well reviewed. But I was like, you know what? It's $4 on Amazon Prime. I'm just gonna watch like the first. It's not even called Rambo. It's just called First Blood. It is not the movie that I thought I was going to be watching. Because the first one, again, it's just called First Blood, and it's about John Rambo. And then it's the sequels that it becomes like Rambo First Blood Part 2. And then I think there's Rambo 3, and then Rambo Last Blood. And so the one that I was thinking of, like the one that's like the really iconic one, is not actually First Blood. It is the second one. It's Rambo First Blood Part 2. And that's the one where like he goes back to Vietnam, and like that's where Hot Shots comes from. Like that's a spoof of the Top Gun and the Rambo movies. That's where that comes from. The sequence in UHF where they parody that. Like it's like that's the iconic Rambo movie that I was thinking I was watching. But this was really interesting because you really do get to see, like, the first one is just like, you want to talk about him against the world. That is this story. That is every fucking Stallone story, is me against the world. And you really sort of do see again, to the extent that Stallone wrote this and he writes himself and he plays himself in every fucking movie, the opening of this movie, the first 20 minutes are actually pretty, like, there's not a lot of violence. He gets abused by the prison guards. But you really do see this, like, look, man, I'm just trying to get some, let me do the lip. I'm just trying to get some food to eat. I'm just trying to get some food. And then the cops are harassing him and like driving him out of town and making him walk. And part of it is a commentary on the Vietnam War and how we treated our veterans after the Vietnam War, which was like we were not good to them, especially if they came home, right? Because we thought it was like a bullshit war, and so we hated the veterans for it. It was a whole thing. And then in the second half of the movie, that's when you see like the real, like the double masculineness come out. Like he's fucking climbing trees and jumping on people and like getting into fist fights, but also setting these elaborate traps. It's actually a very good movie. I'm excited to watch the next one because that one I think is really going to be like what I had in mind, like when I think of Rambo culture, like I don't think survivalist. I think liquefying dudes with machine guns and like blowing shit up, like Michael Bay shit. That's what I think of. But it really got me thinking. And I even, I went to the market this morning. I got myself a steak. Because I just wanted to like really own my own double masculine animal. Because here's the thing. Regardless of what our types, sexual modalities are, everybody has a double masculine animal and everyone has a double feminine animal. Somewhere in their list, they have both of those. Now, if you are MF, right? If you are masculine sensory, feminine extrovert decider, which is what I am, I do not have any animal that is FM. I guess you can kind of be like, okay, my sleep would, I guess, be my FM because we're talking about a feminine observer and masculine decider, kind of. But again, that gets dicey. I want to stick really with like, when two functions are feminine, they make a double feminine animal. And when two functions are masculine working together, they make a double masculine animal. Again, that is not necessarily what your type is. As we see in the case of our buddies Sly and Neil, they are both double masculine, and actually Eminem too. Eminem counts. Henry Rollins is another one where they are double masculine to hell, but their two savior functions are feminine, right? So I'm MF. I am masculine sensory at the bottom of my function stack, feminine TE double activated in the middle. But my blast is double feminine blast, because my NI is feminine and my TE is feminine, and that makes double feminine blast. Which means that necessarily my consume is going to have my two masculine functions attached to it, right? Because blast opposes consume and a masculine function opposes a feminine function, those coins line up in a really interesting way, which is why, look, obviously I love blasting. It's a savior animal, it's whatever. But one of the reasons that shave type me double feminine to begin with, and why I came off for so many years as being, oh, he's obviously double feminine. He's obviously a very feminine dude. That wasn't necessarily because I have feminine sensory. It is because my two savior functions, my NI and my TE, particularly my TE is real feminine. It will fucking go along with anything. And then my masculine FI is having to do like way more fucking work to like ground me and be like, I'm sorry, this human is toxic as fuck. Why are you texting her? Stop. No. Bad. That's bad. Do not text her. But my feminine T is like, oh, whatever. It's la la la. And then my masculine FI has to punch harder than it actually wants to fucking overcompensate for my turbo feminine TE, right? So that's where a lot of my feminine energy came from, especially in the first, really in the first 18 years of my life, like especially up through once 2005 hit for me. So I was 19, like I just turned 19. That's when it was like, oh, okay, there is an edge here. There is this extra component to my personality, to my psyche, that isn't just my feminine TE going along with everything. And a lot of this also is due to the fact that my mom, who I spent a lot of time with growing up, obviously, just because we lived in that kind of a household, like mom was mostly a stay-at-home mom and worked at my school a little bit. My dad, worked and paid the bills. But it was my mom who really did a lot of the driving me around to things. And she is double feminine to hell. So she's not only double feminine, she's double feminine ESFJ, but she has feminine FE at the top and feminine SI as both of her saviors at the top of her function stack, like to death. So that's sort of like, not only do I have double feminine blast to begin with, not only are there my saviors to begin with, the patterns of behavior that were reinforced were coming from predominantly a double feminine blast female authority figure. And so it was, for the first several years of my life, leaning into that double feminine aspect of my psyche was incredibly effortless and was incredibly successful. Oh, man. Because not only, like, it was just a perfect match of me doing my saviors happened to not be challenged by the real world, or at least my bubble within the real world, right? Like, my school encouraged double feminine behavior, right? It encouraged being really accommodating, being flexible, again, in this case with the sensory, which I was not so great at, but like flexible with observations, seeing things from multiple points of view, right? That sort of, again, I know that that's not technically feminine or masculine or anything, but it's just that idea of swooshiness and adaptability and comfortability with like not being super rigid, and also sort of disrespecting masculinity in general. That very much was part of the culture that I grew up in a lot of ways, especially in musical theater. And so I just didn't ever have to care about developing my double masculine and animal and functions. Like, that just wasn't a thing I had to deal with. And then it was really the summer of 2005 when that was the summer when everything changed. Because here's what happened. Two things happened. One, I did a show, and it was the first community theater show that I had done outside of high school. Like, technically I'd done one community theater show, but it was like an extension of high school. I auditioned for it in high school. My parents were still very involved. I drove myself to rehearsals, but I was still very much, under the proverbial parental lid because I hadn't gone to college yet. But the second show, 2005, I was more fully independent. I had built up this pattern of, yep, I'm going to go to rehearsal now. Like that wasn't a new thing. I just went to rehearsal and I drove myself places and I had a little bit more of that independence pattern built up, right? And this is the first show where like my parents weren't really involved in the process at all. Like I just did the things. And it was in that and being around people and also, holy fuck, man, like this was one of the most attractive casts I had ever been in. And like, I was still a teenager at the time. And there were like, I had just graduated high school and there were a couple of high school girls in there. And so we all got along and like flirted. And I was like, oh, right. Women. Yes. Okay, great. I am indeed straight. Good to know. Good to know. Fair enough. And so it was just a lot of my masculine energy was starting to naturally bubble up just because I was not only surrounded by beautiful humans to whom I was sexually attracted, there was no authority figure like monitoring my behavior. And even though my parents were super chill, there was something weird about being open and flirtatious when your parent is in the environment or when any authority figure is in. It's just weird. It's not an intimacy there, right? So that was the first time I was like, okay, I do very much have this double masculine energy to me. But what really did it for me, weirdly enough, was watching the OC. Now, I don't think that it is really hard to overstate just how formative the OC was for me. And again, so I watched this in 2005. This was after the first, so the show came out in 2003. So it would have, right, it was, the second season had just come out on DVD, or was about to come out on DVD, and I was watching the first season at my cousin's place. I visited New York, saw a couple of Broadway shows. It was great. And my cousin was like, bro. And I think he's definitely not Stallone. Definitely double masculine, but also sort of like a lead consume, a lot of femininity towards the top of his function stack, right? He's like, bro, you gotta fucking watch the OC. And I was like, I'm not watching the OC. That's a chick show. And he's like, bro, I'm telling you, this is me. Fucking watch the OC. The show's fucking great. And I'm like, all right, you know what? If Matthew Denton Burrows tells me to watch something that I don't think I should watch because if I think it's too girly, but Matthew Denton Burrows doesn't think it's too, like, okay, great, I gotta fucking watch it. Clearly there's something here. And that just sort of started all of the things, and especially like just seeing myself reflected on screen in so many different ways, being like, oh my God, I very, very much see myself in Marissa Cooper. Her story is really interesting to me. Summer, obviously, in later seasons, but especially like watching Sandy and like seeing that archetype of male authority figure and realizing that like, oh, right, fatherhood, like you can be a very masculine man with a lot of masculine energy and use that in an explicitly authoritative way and in a fatherly archetype way without being a dick. And so that was all right. So sort of seeing those two in particular, like really snapped a lot of things in focus for me. And it helped me understand not only my own double femininity, and being able to see I cannot tell you, like when I saw Marissa Cooper, she came on screen, and someday I truly hope to meet Misha Barton. I feel like it will happen. I'm gonna meet Misha Barton. I'm gonna be like, look, I don't know how to explain this. The impact that your character had on my personal development cannot be overstated. I saw so much of myself in you and in your character, and I don't think that I would have developed as a human the way that I have if not for you and the way that she embodied Marissa Cooper. And I thought that was, and again, it like that really sparked the double feminine side. And once that, what I'm getting to with all this is that once the double feminine, once I was actually able to embrace that, that then allowed me to feel comfortable stretching myself into this double masculine territory without worrying that I'd lose this core of who I wanted to be. Because I do really value feminine energy. I think it is unimaginably useful in the right situation. As with double masculine, I think we're given this narrative that double masculine is more often useful. I don't know if that's necessarily true. But I think that it's really tempting to hear either narrative and immediately go to, oh, everyone says that double masculine is the best, therefore I should never be double masculine. You're like, whoa, 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 hang on, wait, that's not what we're talking about, guys. It's not, you don't have to, it's not a one or the other thing. Everyone has both. We all have a double masculine animal. We all have a double feminine animal. Like, that's where this balance comes from. And so I think that it's really important. Again, so I'm just starting this off. You know, I wasn't sure what to title this video. I eventually settled on balancing your double masculine animal, because here's the thing. Gary Vee, he does not have to worry about embracing his double masculine play. Like, it's cool. He's got that shit on lock, right? I needed to work really, really hard, and am continuing to work hard to embrace my double masculine SF consume. That's just a thing that I have been working on, need to continue to work on. It's why I started going to the gym. It's why I started doing strength training. Because, like, in addition to just becoming a more fit person, I really wanted to start to embrace these archetypes of what I'm going to call double masculinity. Like, not just masculinity, but like double masculinity. Like the double stuffed Oreos of masculinity, right? That's a really good example. Okay. Oh my God. Okay. Great. Check this out. So I love Oreos, but I hate the filling. Like, I like basically what it comes down to is I just like Teddy Grahams, but I like the more intense chocolate. Like if Teddy Graham, like the dark chocolate Teddy Grahams, maron, it's fantastic. But like Teddy Grahams don't really, they don't really do it for me because it's like the milk chocolate, and I'm not much of a milk chocolate guy. It's a little too sweet. But I love like the cookie part of Oreos. Fucking love the cookie part of Oreos. And I'm right. So that's sort of like my double feminine, right? In this analogy, is my whole life I had been eating Oreos and, not, either just eating the tops or twisting them or eating the part without the filling because I didn't want. I was like, it's too much. Nah. And I really like the thin, like the thin Oreos that just have like a little bit of the cream, again, because that gives me more of my double feminine saviors, right? We're bouncing back and forth in these analogies. So what would end up happening is anytime there were just normal ass Oreos, I'd be like, oh, that's too much. That's too much. Oh no, I can't. I just want the cookie part. Okay, well, now I'm not even eating the whole Oreo. Now I have to throw away half of the fucking cookie because there's all of this frosting attached to it. That's even worse than if I just eaten the thing just straight up. Now I'm eating this like, yeah, I get this really great double feminine Teddy Graham Oreo part. But now if I want this other thing, I have to now eat all of this frosting with this little bit of Oreo, and it's not balanced. It's not, no. And then I would just avoid Oreos entirely unless there magically happen to be thin stuff Oreos in, at the whatever party. And then, so basically what I had to do is I had to like start to eat double stuffed Oreos just to like understand what the double stuff felt and just sort of like acclimate my palate to understanding. Listen, man, this is there's a lot of filling here relative to what you think you want, but motherfucker, you can go way further than that. And once I started to understand, like, okay, I love my double femininity. That is an enormous part of who I am. And it is, again, it has helped me navigate some of the most difficult tribe interactions and control chaos interactions that I can imagine ever having. Whether it was like navigating this weird, toxic, corporate-ish environment, and also like not only surviving, but like literally emerging on top. I would not have been able to do this if I didn't have my double feminine blast on point. Same with leaving New York. I just wouldn't have been able to navigate all of the logistics and all of the things and being willing to let go and willing to be flexible and dealing with people and, oh, this person said yes, this person said no. Okay, whatever, we can make it all work with everybody if I didn't have the double feminine, right? But I realized that like I really am only seeing half of the board here, and that if I actually want to navigate situations even better, I need to like start to stretch myself into double masculine territory and be really comfortable with that, right? So if you want to think of it like a rubber band, and this is like the double feminine over here and double masculine land is over here. If I'm stuck over here and I have this rubber band and I'm stretching myself, here's what happens. As I start to stretch myself into this sort of double masculine territory, right? First, I have to go through MF territory, right? And I'm realizing, like, you know what? I really like it over here. I actually kind of like, boy, do I like it over here. And I don't want to stretch to live there. Like, I just want to live there. So I have a couple of options. I can either get a longer rubber band, or I can just move this hand closer to MF, right? Closer to the middle, balancing, if I have my masculine SE, masculine FI over here, feminine NI, feminine TE over here, like if I ever want to access that, yeah, okay, if I get a really long rubber band, sure, I can dip over here and then I'm hanging out here. That's a lot of work. And for the amount of time that I want to spend over here, it's like, yes, okay, my rubber band is long enough to get me there, but like I'm still, it's like dialing 9 on a fucking rotary phone. It's like, oh my God, yes, I can do it, but like, can I live at 5? Like, can we do that maybe? So it's starting to move my double feminine needle towards my MF, which is, again, for me, incidentally, happens to be my double activated savior. So like that also is like, oh wait, This absolutely feels just as comfortable in a completely different way. And me being able to go, oh, okay, I got it. Yep, sure. I can, like, if I live in the middle, I don't need as long of a rubber band to get to both sides of the spectrum, right? I can, like, dip into double feminine. I can dip into double masculine. But because I'm living in this middle ground, and because I've forced this needle to, like, get unstuck from double feminine land, that makes it easier to not only access double masculine, but when I want to dip into double feminine, it isn't that much extra work. Like, it's fine. And look, if I really need to lean into it, right, I can be like, okay, we can move both of these hands into double feminine land for a second. So now let's, like, live in this for as long as I need to, knowing that I don't have to get stuck here. I can come back to the middle. And hell, if I want to live in double masculine land, that's also okay. Using last night as an example, and really all of yesterday, like, watching the clip and thinking about that and really processing the double mask. I wore my my Sons of Anarchy Reaper crew hat for this video. I thought that was really important because what I've been able to start to do, and what I've always been able to do, whether I want to admit it or not, I can live in double masculine land really fucking easily. Like, it does not take a lot of effort for me to live there. Because I can watch and appreciate, like, really violent movies. Shit like Banshee or Bone Tomahawk or The Devil's Rejects. Like, I get it. Like, it to me, Hostel I'm on the fence about, but like the Saw movie, especially the first Saw, or Seven, like, this is like, those are serious fucking movies. And Banshee, in the case of Banshee as a TV show, like, that shit's no joke. And I can appreciate it whether or not I think they are well executed, whether or not I think they are the art that we need. That's a completely separate issue. But I can watch something like The Devil's Rejects or Bone Tomahawk, and I can watch it and I can be like, you know what? I totally get what you were going for. And I can evaluate it based on what they were going for. Rather than, one of the, I don't know if I call it a fight, but one of the biggest disagreements that I get into about art and movies and cinema, whatever, with a lot of my friends who either have feminine sensory or are double feminine or are locked into the double feminine animal for whatever reason, like they're just sort of stuck there, is that, they'll look at something like Devil's Rejects. And they'll be like, this movie is fucking trash. This movie is terrible. Why does this even exist? This is just bullshit. And they're coming at it from the premise of, I don't, like, it's not just it's bad because it's double masculine, but they're like, this would be better if it had double femininity, right? I don't care much about a movie if it was poorly executed. The concept of the story was great and gives me something to think about and appreciate. Thank you. Oh my God. Right? Thank you. 100%. 100%. I'm going to bring up Fleabag for a second. So I totally appreciate Phoebe Waller-Bridge. I think she is fantastic, deserves every accolade that has ever been thrown at her and ever will be thrown at her. She is not my jam. We just don't live in the same cinematic universe. And that is totally, totally fine. I watched the first season of Fleabag and I was like, holy shit, that was fucking intense. Great, I'm good. I do not need to live in this world anymore. And same with Killing Eve. I watched the first couple of episodes and I was like, cool. I totally see what you're going for. I think it was well done. I have no desire to watch this. This is just not up my alley, even a little bit. And that's totally fine. Where I get into disagreements, whatever, on the double masculine side, is that they're approaching it like, this movie is like exploitative trash. Richard Roper, I was reading reviews of the new Rambo movie. They're like, this isn't a movie. This is just mutilation porn. 0 stars, mono trash. And incidentally, I usually agree with Richard Roper in a lot of ways. And certainly did in high school and early college after Siskel passed away. But I look at that and I go, okay, is it fair to give it 0 stars on the basis that it is, as you call it, mutilation porn? If that's what they were going for. I'm going to bring up a tweet that Stallone tweeted about Last Blood. Let's see if I can find it. It was on here. Yeah. So he said on his personal Instagram account, great day. We got our hard R rating today. What's coming is going to be unlike anything you have ever seen. He was not kidding. And indeed, again, this is like one of my weird nerdy hobbies. I've been weirdly passionate about Motion Picture Association of America movie rating reasons since high school. And it came from the fact that porn was not as easily available. And so I just wanted to know how much nudity and violence and whatever am I going to get to see in a given movie. And Rambo Last Blood is rated R for strong graphic violence, grisly images, drug use and language. And I'm like, I don't know that you can say that it was a bad movie just because it is mutilation porn, because that is what they were going for. That's what Stallone was, that's the movie they were trying to make. I can't be mad at them maybe I can be mad at them for wanting to make it, but again, that's a separate issue. Boy, oh boy, did I catch a lot of flack for liking Joker. I would say in recent memory of all of the there again, Joaquin Phoenix, double masculine dude. I think they have him as an INFP, so I think again he's in the same realm of he has 2 feminine savior functions. But both of his demons are his double masculine, but he is a double masculine. In recent memory, I can't remember the last time I caught so much flack for liking something as I did for liking Joker. And a lot of that was because I went into Joker assuming it was going to be terrible. First off, it is a very, very well-made movie. It is very, very good. And I saw it and I was like, oh my God, I totally get the story that we are trying to tell here. And all of the criticism of it, 100% of the criticism of Joker boils down to, I don't care that it's good. It's not the art we need right now. And I'm like, okay, well then why are we trying to find, and again, a lot of the rhetoric was like, trying to find reasons that it was bad, which is why all the criticisms of it just never fucking made sense to me. Because I'm like, that's not. Did we watch the same movie? What's really? Oh, right. And it is like Joker is a very double masculine movie. It is a revenge fantasy. It is a power trip movie. It is very good at being what it set out to be. I have not seen The Human Centipede. From what I have heard anecdotally, that does not do a good job of doing, right? Because its goal is to like shock and also comment on the human condition and whatever. And I've heard that it is just not executed very well. In contrast, like the first and second Saw movies are really good. They're sick, they're twisted, but they also like there really is a story at the center of it, and they really are trying to explore a theme. And they're doing it in a certain way. And I think given the theme they were trying to explore, they explored it very well. I may not like that theme. That theme may not be interesting to me. And again, to the people who disliked Joker, to their credit, a lot of them really, they didn't mean that it, what, again, at the core of it, what I think they were really saying is, I don't find this story interesting. So therefore, no version of that story could possibly compel them because of how uninteresting they find the premise. Totally fair. That is a valid criticism, and especially getting into the not the art we need right now, also super valid. But I think it's worth recognizing the difference between, okay, why am I so viscerally opposed to this? And I'm going to sort of end with this. Shan talks a lot about Gary Vee and how she hated Gary Vee and had to keep going over and over and over and over and over again. And finally she was like, I get it. Gary Vee is amazing. I get it. I was wrong. He is indeed doing the thing. And so I'm in a similar process with Gary Vee, and I don't actually know where it's going to end up. Because at first, I was viscerally opposed to Gary Vee. Viscerally, deeply. I've softened a little bit now that I have been able to lean into my own double masculine SF a little more. I feel like I get what he's going for. Whereas, our big difference with the double masculine SF, he's hammering on the tribe with FE. I'm pushing on myself with FI, which is why, for those of you who are into like color energy, which gestures broadly to behind, you can't even see my whole fucking Barbie shrine over there. But like, we both have like red energy, but my red is like a deeper, darker blood red, and his is more of a cherry red. But now that I'm understanding, like, oh, right. I don't have to live exclusively in pink and lavender and purple land. Like, there really is like a nice blood red undercurrent that I get. And okay. And once I started to really embrace my own double masculine SF, it made it so much easier for me to go, Gary Vee, I totally see what you are doing. You are indeed not talking to me. I don't need to care about what you think because I'm not your audience. Oh, great. Keep doing what you're doing, boo. And then we both just move on with our lives. And it's fantastic. And so I would encourage you, wherever you are in your journey of balance, whether, look, if you're someone like Andy Samberg, right? So he is ESFP, MF, doubling up on his masculine SE and feminine TE. Great. He's already right in the middle. you're good. He doesn't need to like go over the top being like super double feminine, super double masculine. Like he's naturally kind of in the middle. So stretching himself in those ways, not the hardest thing in the world for him. Anecdotal. Again, I don't know his whole life story, but that's, he obviously has grown a lot as a person over the past 15 years of being in the spotlight. But he still very much is like doing the Andy Samberg thing straight. Like he is a pretty middle of the road guy in a lot of ways. But for somebody like me, if your lead animal is double feminine or double masculine, I think it's really important to stretch yourself into the other realm. And that's going to take time. You're going to have to do it slowly. It's not a thing that'll be like I'm like living in double feminine land. Let me just start watching Banshee. No! What? No! Stop! No! That's not going to help you. Or, the clip that I posted in the class group, like, that's not the place to, if you live in double feminine land and you want to get better at double masculine, don't start with Rambo Last Blood. That's not going to help. Don't start with The Devil's Rejects. Don't start with Bone Tomahawk. I think you can start with the first season of Sons of Anarchy. I think that's a really good place to start, because there is so much story there and so much humanity and so much, exploring, if, Jax is, he's a double masculine guy, I think probably. But like a lot of it is about like exploring masculinity and femininity, and you really see like his inner world, and like I think that is a fine place to start. But honestly, like I'm trying to think of like a good, like if you really are hardcore in double feminine land and you want something to ease you into double masculine, I think a pretty good place to start would be find like a PG-13 action movie. A PG-13 action movie that was made in the last, I'm going to say 5 years, because the MPAA, here again, going back to my super nerd shit, the MPAA made a pretty conscious decision in sort of the late, like 2008 to 2010. They really wanted to they're like, okay, currently the definition for what's PG-13 and what's R is too restrictive and doesn't really reflect real life. So they're like, so what they did is they allowed for more envelope pushing on the PG-13 side when it comes to violence specifically. They're still really prudish on sex and swearing and drug, and I just think that's insane. But that's a separate issue. If it's a movie that is action-oriented and violent, you can get away with a lot in PG-13 land recently. So like something like Hobbs and Shaw, something like, any of the Fast and Furious movies are really good examples of this. The original Matrix, I think, is a pretty good entry point. I sort of have been thinking about, like, if I ever have kids someday, what their first R-rated movie is going to be. Mine was Starship Troopers. That might have been a little intense as like a first foray into R-rated movies. But like, yeah, that is an option. The original Matrix is good. The first Alien movie, or Aliens, is another good movie. That's another way to like get into this realm of double masculine, this realm of like action oriented, without going so far that you're gonna like hurt yourself emotionally. Like the scene that I don't know what there are a couple of really intense emotional scenes, violent scenes in the new Rambo movie, that are like legitimately emotionally upsetting, just to like see another person do that to somebody else in real time. It's very, very upsetting. So like, don't traumatize yourself if that's not going to be useful to you. And then as you start to get more comfortable with that, if you are interested in exploring this further, like this entire video has just been nothing but sensory examples of like shit that you can consume to really build that muscle. I kind of want to end the video here because I want to do a separate video, hopefully tomorrow, that talks about embracing the double feminine animal, because I do think that that is just as important. That it is important to understand like where you're coming from and where you need to go to ultimately find this balance. So I'm going to end this video here. Look out for part 2, hopefully tomorrow. I don't know that I have another one of these in me today, but definitely look for this guy tomorrow, because I do want to explore the other side of this, and maybe instead of a steak, I'll have like a light parfait, maybe some nice eggs. I don't know. Talk to you guys later. Have a good one. Bye.